million in fines. This is an excellent bill. I look forward to it coming to Select Committee. Thank you.
I call Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Talofa lava, Malolele and Bulavanaka. And thank you for the chance to speak to the Psychoactive Substances Bill, and those specific greetings will become relevant to the House a little bit later in my contribution. Can I just join with a number of other speakers on both sides of the House, to be fair, to say that this is a significant bill, because I think there are lots of times that law is debated in this House where mums and dads at home will think that is not necessarily overly relevant to them, but I think a bill like this will certainly be relevant to a lot of mums and dads out there who are very concerned about the effects that these drugs, these party pills and other substances that give not only just young people, but mostly the young people, legal highs in New Zealand need to be cracked down on. I certainly know that it is a live issue, as Barbara Stewart has said, for a lot of MPs. I want to note that there are a couple of people in my constituency of Mana, the principal of the Porora Alternative School, Les Tausanga, who was very concerned about the sale of party pills to his students. His students face enough challenges as it is, but he was on Facebook just a couple of weeks ago talking about the bad influence that those pills are having on some of his students, and cracking down on some of the retailers in that area that think it's fit to sell those to his students. And also the principal of Bishop Viard College, Teresa Cargo, who a couple of weeks ago did raise the issue of the sale of these party pills, not just in dairies, but people being approached, young people from her school being approached on the street to buy the likes of K2 from people who weren't necessarily shop owners, but were just people on the street approaching her students to try and sell these substances to them. So I'd like to acknowledge the Minister who's responsible for this bill, who I thought made a very good contribution to the earlier debate about the Afghanistan troops, where you said that that issue touches the lives of Kiwis very dramatically. I put those words down because I knew we were going to be debating this issue, and I know that this issue of party pills and legal highs certainly does touch the lives of a lot of people in communities right around this country very dramatically. The influence of technology is also very apt in this debate in terms of our youngsters, and I think it was the Minister who said it was a cat and mouse game, because the technology and the ability of manufacturers to produce different types of party pills, different types of substances, was very difficult for the law, for the legislation that was governing this to try and keep up. So I think this law is absolutely a move in the right direction, so that we as a government and we as a nation can faster respond to the challenges that this industry has put forward because of the ability for them to change the makeup of their drugs. Mr Speaker, in April 2011 the Law Commission released its report into controlling and regulating drugs, and in its report it highlighted two issues. Firstly, the harm that these psychoactive substances are doing, because that they were available with little or no control over their ingredients, the strength of them, where they were being sold, and the age of people who they were being sold to, and secondly that the onus was on the government to figure out just how harmful these substances were. And the Law Commission made a number of recommendations, and the government has picked up on this one to crack down on psychoactive drugs. I want to praise the Minister for putting this law through, but I do have a little bit of sympathy for him, because I imagine for someone who has been very ardent on this issue, he wanted to get this issue through a lot quicker than the 2 years it has taken since April 2011 for this legislation to come to this House. And this is not a new issue at all, because my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway, who spoke on this issue earlier, did say, I think it was back in, I'm looking here, is it March 2012, I believe, was asking for a bit more urgency from the government to make some moves against these psychoactive drugs, and to quote him, he said, "We think it's ridiculous that we've basically been experimenting on our kids by allowing the substances to come off the shelf and then trying to constantly chase our tails, trying to get them off the shelf again. I'm not saying this is a bad bill. I'm saying this is actually a very good bill that Mr Dunn has brought to the House, but Labor believes much more is needed. We don't believe this government has taken the opportunity for a much more comprehensive overhaul of the Misuse of Drugs Act, as the Law Commission had proposed back in April 2011, and this bill only addresses one of the recommendations that the Law Commission made. We do look forward to the Select Committee process. I understand that that issue will be debated at length a bit later. But also, going back to my greetings that I did go back to the Speaker, I think one of the issues that, certainly on this side of the House, that we've thought about is whether or not kava as a substance will be included in this bill. I did hear someone giggle, but it's not actually a very funny, not a funny issue at all, because there is a lot of cultural significance to the Ava and the kava ceremonies. So for the Tongan community and for the Samoan community and the Fijian community, it will be what is still a psychoactive substance. Still a psychoactive substance. We're just wondering if they would like to make a submission to this bill to make sure that their cultural rituals are not covered in this bill. So it is a serious issue, and I see that the Minister in the House is certainly nodding his head, so he may be able to speak to that at length a little bit later on. There are some other issues that a number of other members have raised around the advertising and the plain packaging and the point of sale displays around psychoactive drugs that are covered in this bill, and we certainly look forward to some discussion around that, considering that this House in the last term went through some very robust debate around in the Smoke-Free Environments Bill, I believe, Amendment Bill, around the advertising around tobacco. We believe that leaving that to regulatory power is an interesting move, given what we did in this House in the previous term. So we will certainly be looking forward to that debate at the Select Committee to see whether or not we think it's appropriate, whether or not that is left just to regulatory power, a decision for someone other than this House to make. The bill also does establish a couple of bodies, and if I just bring this back here, it does establish the Psychoactive Substances Appeal Committee, who will look at some of the decisions that are made by the authority and the committee who are determining whether or not some of these substances are legal or not. Mr. Williamson might need a bit of a pickup over there. A bit of a pickup. Someone get him a lolly. But I think that is a good move, because to set up the authority and that body to have a look at what will be deemed to be safely sold, to have a low impact on people using these drugs or not. I do understand that if people are caught with non-approved substances, that they will be up for an infringement fee of $500. As Ian Lees-Galloway said, that is a very good move, and that we should look at expanding that beyond perhaps just the psychoactive substances listed here. But I also do note that anyone that is caught selling or supplying the substances that aren't approved, offering to sell or supply a substance that's not approved, or possessing the substance with intention to sell or supply, will be up for an imprisonment of 2 years and a fine of $500,000. So it's pretty serious punishment if anyone is caught selling or preparing to sell these psychoactive substances that don't have approval. So Mr Speaker, Labor does support this bill. It does a lot of good. There are some lost opportunities because of the recommendations that the Law Commission recommended and that the government hasn't taken up. We're a bit disappointed that this issue was highlighted by the Law Commission back in April 2011, and now in April 2013 this legislation has just been introduced to the House.
I call Mike Sabin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Firstly, can I commend the work of the Honourable Minister Dunn